Hi book nerds, welcome back to Book Club. Last week I talked about Halloween Party by Agatha Christie, and this week we are going to be discussing For Whom the Belle Tolls by Jaysea Lynn. Now, if you are online a lot like how I am, you might recognize that Jaysea Lynn, this lovely darling right here, she has a TikTok and an Instagram where basically she plays all these different kinds of characters who work at a help desk in hell. And she made a book all about those characters, about the main character Lily and her journey through this all. And I was so excited that I got that without thinking. I just bought the paperback the moment I saw it when I went on vacation. And then when I got to another bookstore on my vacation, I saw the hardback, so I have the paper and hardback because I have no self-control. But look how pretty this is. Look at that. I mean, if you saw my book haul video from a while ago, you would definitely remember this. And it has art on the back and the front. It has I love it so much, and it's so pretty. And this is my pretty book. This hardback book is my pretty book. And even taking a bit of the book jacket off, look how gorgeous that is. Oh my god. I just love this book. I love it already. This is already a favorite. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm going to be manhandling the paperback because it's the paperback. You know, it could be a little manhandled. It could be a little rough. You know, the hardback, it is a very pretty book. I do want to read from the hardback because books are meant to be read, but it's just so pretty. I have to have my pretty books. So, but For Whom the Belle Tolls, we're going to read the back of the book blurb. And look at this right there. I love it. They told her to go to hell. She went, but on her own terms. Lily may not be thrilled with her arrival in the afterlife, but what awaits her there is fantastical beyond imagination. Deities in line at the coffee shop, fae flitting between realms, souls making death a beginning. As she explores the afterlife's many realms, Lily finds herself drawn to a place most would avoid at all costs: hell. Armed with years in customer service, she makes a job for herself among hell's demons, directing souls to their rightful circles with more than a hint of sass. Lily's expectations are subverted every day in hell, especially by Belle, a demon general with a distractingly sexy voice. The two form an immediate, deeply healing friendship, and the heat between them threatens to combust. But something stirs beyond the boundaries of their world, threatening to destroy everything they know, unless they fight like hell to stop it. Sorry, I'm getting all excited all over again for this book, for these characters, and you might notice, yes, there is a little bookmark in here. That's because I'm lending this book to a friend. She just started reading it. She's liking it so far, but you know, she's taking it slow. I read this book. This is a big book. This book is over 600 pages long. It is 64 chapters, and it is the font size of 11. It's tiny printed words, a lot of pages and a lot of chapters, a lot of story, and we're going to get into the characters before I say anything else. So, my little notes. I've been using blue paper recently. I'm going to go back to white eventually, but we're going to do the blue for now. So, Lily, the main character, just died. And again, Jaysea Lynn already has, I basically already know these characters because she's done videos about these characters. So this is the beginning of the main character, Lily, from when she first died to how she started working at the help desk to where she is now. Because if you go on Jaysea Lynn's TikTok or her Instagram and you start watching the videos, it's very obvious that there's a gap between when when the book starts versus where they are now. There's a whole big gap and jump. So I felt like I already really knew these characters very well when I started reading. But we got Lily. We have Belle, the demon prince, very sexy voice. We have Greg, a level 9 Punisher. Greg is a nickname. I'm not going to try and say what his actual name is because I couldn't say it when I was trying to read the book, and I'm not going to attempt it now. But he also has a little nickname called Greggles, which I think is so funny. We have Sharky, an abused child who died, who turned to Lily as a mother figure. So she basically becomes Lily's adopted daughter. It's so cute. You have Lucifer, which on my notes I wrote down, you already know, assholes. Lucifer, Satan, the devil himself. I mean, it's kind of obvious. And I literally wrote down literally so many fucking characters, which there's a lot of characters that I wish I could just kind of give their own like little spiel and speeches to, because she meets a lot of really cool and interesting people. Like there's Angel, there's Persephone, there's all like, she meets actual deities and gods, and there's all these extra demons and all this stuff, and it's like, wow, this is a lot of characters, and as there should be. This book is over 600 pages long. Look at it. Yes, I love it. 64 chapters with an epilogue, over 600 pages. Just, mwah. I'm not going to kiss it because I'm wearing lipstick and I don't want a lipstick print on it. I'm obviously very passionate about this book. After reading Halloween Party, I was immediately like, I need to read this right now or I'm going to start biting people. I'm so glad I read it when I did. This was such a fun, wonderful read. It took me longer than I probably should have expected. But, you know, it's over 600 pages, and it's amazing. It's beautiful. I love it. It's so cute. And for the plot, oh god, I didn't really write down a lot of plot on my notes, because how do I even begin with this plot? It's such a big book, and it's just insane and crazy about it, because it's like, you gotta like try and figure out. There's just so much in this book. I don't know where to start talking about the plot. I mean, in the beginning, Lily dies. Lily dies from cancer because the American healthcare system has failed her, and she dies in her early 30s. That's how the book starts off. We get a few chapters dedicated to that, and then she goes into the afterlife, and it's a waiting room. It's basically a waiting room. She goes up to like one of the desks and she's like, hey, like what's going on? And the person gives her her file. She starts going back and thinking of like her old lives where she also didn't have very happy lives, where she kind of died miserably. And throughout these beginning chapters, we learn that she grew up religious, that she's bisexual, and she just did not have like the most amazing, wonderful life, but it was an okay life. She has brothers, she has a mom and dad. She left the church. She's just trying to like, you know, she was like, man, this kind of sucks. Like my happiest life or the longest life I've lived was when I died of cancer. Like, how is that fair, kind of thing. And there's all the stuff that she wanted to do when she was alive, and she was given all these options of like, well, you could go through this kind of judgment or this kind of judgment, and you can be reincarnated, or you could go into the void, which is where your soul will kind of disappear, and all this other kind of stuff. So Lily decides to go through universal judgment, you know, because there's all different kinds of judgment, because a whole bunch of different people, you know, have different religions, different ways, you know, like someone might be, you know, going through Christian judgment, universal judgment, pagan judgment. There's a lot of different judgments to go through, and she's given the options, but she goes through universal judgment and she gets her own paradise, which is so cool that, you know, this idea that the afterlife is just all these realms and worlds and afterlives just kind of connected together. It kind of reminds me of Danny Phantom. And if you know Danny Phantom, you know exactly where I'm going with that, and that's all I'm gonna say. Like, if you're a Danny Phantom fan, you already know. But anyway, all these like different like afterlives connected together in basically this one giant hall where there's also like bars and restaurants and coffee shops. Like, I'm thinking of it as like a giant mall, essentially. So she gets to walk around, she gets to see all this stuff. She makes friends with the people who, you know, originally showed her her file and was like, hey, give me a call or a text if you make it through. Like, I'm pretty sure you will. She ends up meeting Persephone in a coffee shop and doesn't realize that it's that Persephone, like the actual goddess, and she's trying to be chill about it, but she accidentally makes a sex joke in front of her, and she's all embarrassed. She's like, oh my god, and Persephone's like, nah girl, it's chill, I love your vibe, I love the joke, we gotta hang out and talk sometime. So yeah, she's befriending like deities and all this kind of stuff, and she does end up passing like the gates of heaven, and she's very much of like, wow, I'm gonna nope right on out of there, because her paradise isn't heaven, it's just paradise for people who, you know, universal judgment, universal paradise kind of thing. But there's also, like, Valhalla, for those who, like, believe in, like, the Norse way of, like, fighting and this kind of stuff. Like, there's just a bunch, like, there's a lot of references to a bunch of different afterlives and paradises for those kinds of people, and it's just really amazing and beautiful, and it's such a wonderful thought to really think of. But of course, when there's paradise, there's also punishment, and, you know, a place where, like, the truly awful, terrible people will go. And of course, there is, in fact, a hell. There's, like, a big, like, gates of hell, and, like, where they'll go and everything. And she just kind of stares at it and goes, I'm not gonna touch that either. And she's gonna walk away, and she's trying to enjoy her own afterlife, her own paradise, which she finds out that, you know, the house can kind of communicate with her and talk to her and all this kind of stuff. And she's really excited about, you know, like, she has her own garden. It looks like a little hobbit hole because she's a big giant nerd. She gets to have her tattoos back, and she gets to read all the books that she loves, as well as some new books, because, you know, the writers in Paradise and the Afterlife, they kept on writing. So there's all these different books that, you know, she has all the time for, and she's loving it. She's enjoying it. And she loves her paradise, but she goes out every once in a while. She's texting a few people that she made friends with already. She goes out to the coffee shop. She walks around. She talks to other souls and other people who have died. And one thing that is really noticeable that she notices a lot too is the lack of a heartbeat as she, like, goes around and, like, meets all these people. Is like, that's something that she notices and mentions a lot, is, like, the lack of a heartbeat, or the lack of that thumping in her chest, or, like, if she, you know, was alive, she'd feel it, but, you know, it's nothing in her chest. Despite that, everything else is fine. Like, she decides that she is gonna, like, look around in hell, because she's not interested in it, but for Lily, all of her life, she's been told that she's going to go to hell, because, again, she was religious while growing up, and then she left her church and all that, and so, of course, during stuff like that, you're going to be told to go to hell. So she, like, as the back of the book blurb says, she's going to do it on her own. It's on her own terms. Like, she already has the comfort of she's not a bad person. She has her paradise. It was the universe telling her that she's a good person. But she's curious, and she wants to see what hell looks like. So she goes down to hell, and she sees, like, demons for the first time. She sees all these rude people. She walks down the stairs that go down there. And she's basically seeing, like, wow, all these people are really rude. And she meets up with a demon or two and talks with them and chats and all that stuff. And then she leaves. And every once in a while, she'll go down and talk to those demons or bring them coffee or muffins or something. She ends up gaming with them online, which is how she ends up meeting Belle for the first time. Which basically is just, like, she kind of makes a joke about how sexy his voice is while they're playing certain games. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, one of the games was Among Us, and I clocked that immediately. I was like, oh my god, it's Among Us, which, I love that. I'm getting so happy and excited just reading this book, like, just talking about this book. I want to read it again, but oh my goodness, no, calm down, girly. And I feel like I've already been talking so much about this book, and again, this is, like, if I just start talking and talking and talking, like, there's just so much to talk about. She ends up meeting all these friends, and eventually, when she goes back down to hell to talk to some people and meet with them, they're like, oh my god, like, these people, like, they're so terrible and awful and this and that. And so she's like, hey, how about I help you guys? Like, do you have a table and, like, a sign? And so she ended up, like, making her own little help desk. And she has a baseball bat, and basically, whenever, like, the really angry, upset, like, really just terrible people who are causing an issue and all this kind of stuff, who are refusing to stay in hell, like, they go up to her because she wrote down, like, you know, the help desk. She's been working customer service for years, and of course, the people are coming to her like, I don't belong in hell, I didn't do anything wrong, and blah, 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 blah. And this time, she's working customer service, but she can fight back. So anytime they start being weird, creepy, or, like, physically aggressive towards her, like how in the living world here, we can't do anything and fight back kind of thing. But she's over here with a baseball bat. She's like, oh, I get to beat your ass if you try anything. And she loves it. For her, it's very cathartic for her, which I love that. And she does this so much. She comes down every once in a while. She doesn't really have like a schedule for it. She's like, oh, I'll go down every once in a while. I'll play customer service and I'll get to hit people if they're being assholes kind of thing. And I'll just make them go to whichever ring, because they have like the whole like 9 levels of hell. And level 9 is like the worst level. And level 1 is like, oh, you need therapy kind of thing. And that's what it is that it's just like, once you reach like level 5 and lower, it's like basically there's no hope for you. But like level 4 and up, it's like, okay, it's basically just intensive therapy and not scare tactics, but basically like, hey, you really need help and you're stuck in hell forever unless you reincarnate. But that's if you get to like level 1 and above kind of thing. So, and you take everything that you've learned in hell, and then you get to reincarnate and you get to be a new person, and your soul echoes what the afterlife was like, which is why some things are like, some people only remember the pain and punishment of hell versus others are like, oh, well, it wasn't like, it was like this, and that's what they wrote about and stuff like that. So like if you reincarnate, your soul kind of remembers, but it's only echoes of it, so you only have vague ideas, which I really like. That's how they explained it. Anyway, she ends up helping here or there. She's doing this, she's doing that. She does end up meeting Belle, and they have kind of like a flirtatious friendship here and there, and they're really getting to know each other. They're connecting on a deep level, and it's very much of a flirting, will they, won't they. There's a trivia game at a bar involved, which is so awesome and fun. It's so great. And then Sharky appears, which Lily is in the hall. She's getting a cup of coffee. She's talking to one of her friends, and this little girl comes up to her and be like, hey, excuse me, do you know where hell is? That's where I'm meant to go. And everyone here is like, this is a small child in a shark onesie. What is she doing here? So they do end up going down to hell, where at this point in the story, it's already established that Lily is a certified worker of hell. She has her own desk and everything, like it just magically appeared, and she has a computer, she has a file system, and soul files will just appear in front of her if she does in fact have someone who belongs in hell. But if someone just goes down just randomly, their soul file won't appear down there, proving that, hey, you don't belong down here, what are you doing down here kind of thing. But anyway, this small child was in an abusive situation where she died, but she was always told that she was going to hell and this and that, and so she does end up taking her down to hell and meeting Lucifer, where Lucifer will explain that she'll get a guardian until like her mind, soul, and body start aging up, and then she can start doing her own stuff and live in her own paradise, because she's a kid. Of course she's not going to hell. She's just a child. She has her own paradise. And she ends up staying with Lily, and Lily kind of becomes like this surrogate mother to her. And this is where we really learned that Lily really wanted to be a mom when she was alive. But because of her issues with like her body and the cancer and everything, and even in her past lives before that, she just hasn't had the chance yet. And so that's one reason why Lily really considers reincarnation, because that might be her only chance to have a family, to be a mother or something similar to it in her next life. Which is something she doesn't think about too hard, because she's really starting to like Belle more than a friend way. But Sharky lives with her, and she ends up like helping Sharky set boundaries, like, I will never walk into your room if you don't want me to. You're allowed to be happy. You're allowed to do this. And Sharky, because she's a child, she ends up like picking where she wants to go to school. Like she could go to school in certain paradises or anything like that. And Sharky's like, oh, can I go to school in hell? Because at this point, the demons are her friends, and the demons, and like, it's just this whole thing where like she could go down to hell and she could do schooling there. And why is there schools in hell? Well, it's because the demons are born in the afterlife, and so there's like afterlife beings, and then there's the soul, and so afterlife beings can have kids and get married and stuff like that. So there is like demon children who are going to school and learning how to be demons. So Sharky's just like, oh, I want to go down there because the demons are my friends. You know, it's like kid logic. So Lily works down there. Sharky goes to school down there. She's getting really close and spicy with Belle. They've had a few kisses here or there. It's like so good. But throughout this entire book, there's like little hints that there's something going on outside of the universe. Because the universe is like its own little bubble, and there's other universes, alternate universes, in their own bubbles. But sometimes they'll clash and they'll fight. So there's kind of like hints and rumors and talks about how there might be a fight, there might be a war, how there's something going on outside of the universe, how there's another universe coming in close. But that's all background, because right here we're focusing on Lily, who's working in customer service and going through her own grief and trauma and religious trauma, because Lily is still grieving and still like is still trying to like acknowledge the fact that she left her family, and basically when her family begged her to stay. And I'm trying not to cry already. My goodness. I'm going to say right now, there's something about books that touch upon death in such a whimsical way. It really does get to me. Not in a bad way. Never in a bad way. It's always like in such an emotional, powerful way. Because it's such a sensitive topic for a lot of people, but then showing like such a like terrifying way of it, or the possibility of what could happen, because this is not the only like death touched book I have. I have another one that I've read on my shelf and I'm staring right at it, and that book made me cry like a baby, like just like big. This book also made me cry like a baby too. A lot of books make me cry. But we're kind of learning through Lily's grief and trauma. We're learning more about Belle, and we're learning more about Sharky in between all of this, and Sharky being the child that Lily could have had, or what could be in her reincarnation. And as Belle and Lily start getting closer to a romantic relationship, Lily's kind of like, is this a good idea? Because I plan to reincarnate at some point in the future. Like, I want to enjoy my paradise, but is this a good plan? And Belle is trying to be supportive, being like, I adore you, I care about you, like, if you want to reincarnate, I just want to spend my time with you now, like, as more than friends, and all that. And it's just this whole thing. And I just love it so much. It's just cute. It's super cute. And this is like, God, it's just so cute. It's adorable. There's so much in this book where I'm like, it's super cute, it's super thoughtful. There's a lot of heart-wrenching stuff in here as well. Like, she tells Belle at some point in the story, like when they're dating and all that, that she misses her brothers, and that she told them that after she dies, she's gonna be a ghost and she's gonna steal all, like, one sock from every pair in their drawer. And she finds out later on in the book that he has like just just a box full of random socks that he has like a lower demon to give her. And she's like, what is this? And he goes, I don't know, he said that you would understand this, something about stealing socks. And he's been sending demons off to her house in the living world to grab socks to steal from her brothers. And it is just so cute. Like, it's adorable. And something that I do like in this world as well is that there is something called MortalTube, which is basically YouTube, but where you search is like who you can watch in the living world, and that's something that she does not want to look at all. Like, I'd be interested in something like that. Like, oh my goodness, like, what the heck? Like, I want to keep up on like mortal events and stuff, but that's something she's like, I cannot, like, I'm not emotionally or mentally ready to look in the mortal world and see how my family's doing, because time in the afterlife and time in the mortal world are completely different. And oh my god, I feel like I've been talking about this forever, and I feel like I haven't really gone to the meat and potatoes of the story. But oh my goodness, this whole story, and like it's a lot, because like, you know, they're friends, they're lovers, they get together, they have their like insecurities with each other, they talk and communicate. She meets his family, he talks about like, you know, parts of his family that he hasn't really told anyone about. She talks about her family and her insecurities, and they don't really fight. They just kind of get together and they actually communicate healthily. And they have Sharky as like basically like their surrogate daughter together, and she's like growing and getting healthy and realizing that, you know, what happened to her was not fair. Like, it's just this whole big emotional journey that you get to see like through a healthy, like in a healthy way. And there's something really beautiful about that. And again, it's hard to talk about the plot of this book because so much is happening, because like, you got to talk about the background characters, you have to talk about the world building itself, and then the actual plot, and then the side plots, and it's like, it's just one thing after another. And nearing the end of the book, like not even the end of the book, but nearing the end of the book, the war that, you know, was being hinted and like in the background all about, and throughout the middle up to the end, it's not really hinted at. It's kind of like, oh yeah, another universe is trying to like infiltrate and steal resources, trying to take over kind of thing. And they do go off to war about it. And there's this whole badass moment where like one of the monsters from the other universe gets through into the hall, and the paradises are on lockdown, and Lily was in the hall, and so she has like a sword at her side because it was a gift from Belle, and she ends up running into heaven and locking the gate, and the monster is like literally right at the gate and is trying to get through, but it can't, and Lily's just watching it trying to get through, and she's terrified, she's scared, so she just brings the sword up and cuts right through its neck and kills it and dies, and she realizes she's in like the heaven paradise, and she turns around and God with a big G is standing right behind her, and she gets to have her moment, which I feel like this is like a really healing part of her just like kind of cussing out like the big G in like her own way of like, you never heard any of our prayers, you never saved any of this, like if you could do anything about it, but you can't do anything about it. Like, she's calling him out on the stuff that I feel like a lot of people who have doubts about God talk about, and he explains like how in this book how it works, how he can't really do anything about it, how he can only send like small things here or there because he's not the only God there. There's also like the Old Testament gods, there's also not gods, there's also the Roman gods and the Greek and the Norse and all these different types of like afterlives as well. And he's like, it's not like this one big thing. But it's really cathartic reading her journey of how terrible she was treated, like because of religion, after religion, and then now she gets to talk to like the big person who's supposedly in charge of it all, and have her moment of just yelling and spitting at him, just kind of like calling out on like the unfairness of it all. There's something really cathartic about it. Again, I know this is fictional. This is all fictional. We don't know what the afterlife looks like. We don't know anything about this, but again, books who touch upon death and religion, there's always something about them. There's always something about them. And they're in a war, they're in a fight, and it's so funny because like after this whole big moment, Belle doesn't realize that that's what happened, and I'm expecting in this part of the story that after Belle realizes that she killed this big ass monster by herself and blah blah blah, like I'm expecting you to have the reaction of like, no, I can't lose you, I can't have you be out there fighting, like how dare you kind of thing. Like I'm expecting that stereotypical reaction, but instead he's like, oh my god, are you okay? And she's like, yeah. He's like, oh my god, that's so sexy and I'm so proud of you, but oh my god, are you okay? Like, my goodness, expectations subverted. I love that. And the war goes on. They end up winning, not without loss kind of thing. And there was a few background characters that have died in that, which was very sad and very kind of like, this is in fact a war. Belle himself got hurt, but he got healed. And there's just this whole thing where like they go out into the battleground where it happened, and they end up laying flowers and grabbing their dead and having a whole funeral. And it's this whole thing where it's like, it's not like the war happens and then the book ends. It's like, no, you have to see like they have to gather the dead and the wounded, and Belle is a general and a prince, so he ends up having to be there for the funeral. He's having to have to accept certain things of what happened, and it's going through this whole big motion of like, we get to see the aftermath, like we get to see like the struggles and the PTSD and what happened after the war. Like the book just doesn't end of like, oh, we say like we're safe and everyone will be happy now. Like, no, we're seeing what happens afterward, and I really like that. And then the actual end of the book is that one of the other demons, who is very like proper, like paperwork, studious kind of person, he like tells Lily about this like little loophole in like for the universe where like people can apply to be an afterlife being, because remember what I said before, how demons were born into the afterlife, so they're an afterlife being, versus people who have died are just souls. Well, Lily finds out like, hey, if you're a soul, you can go apply to be an afterlife being, and then you'll have a heart again, you'll be alive, you'll be living, but you can't reincarnate or go back down to earth. So she goes to like the reincarnation area, like to get all the paperwork and stuff. And it's just this really funny scene because like her file disappears and the one demon just like goes like, oh yeah, she went down to like the reincarnation office, and Belle has this whole freak out because he's like, she told me that she wasn't gonna go yet, and if she was gonna go, she would tell me, we would have this whole thing, like, and he's freaking out because he's thinking she's about to reincarnate. So classic miscommunication trope, but Belle does the thing where he just sits down, rationalizes it through despite being emotionally like a wreck, because also a war just ended. But when Lily comes back, he tells her what happens. He's like, I got so scared, I thought you were reincarnated and this and that. And she goes, oh no, I found out that I could apply to the universe to be a afterlife being. And she got to be an afterlife being, which means that she can also now, like, you know, get married. She won't reincarnate. She won't technically die unless something either kills her or she goes into the void. And she's just like, I have my life now. I get to have a life with you. We will get married at some point. I can have kids with you at some point. We have Sharky. I have my job. Like, everything is going to be okay. And we'll just continue making friends. And one of the characters in the TikToks and the Instagram Reels is a girl named Penny. And you kind of get a glimpse of that at the end of this book. And Jaysea Lynn has stated, or like has basically been teasing us of like, she's making a second book right now, probably to continue on the story from the beginning, and now we're getting the other characters. And I feel like I've been talking forever, so I'm gonna take a small break, and then that was the plot. That's all I'm saying about the plot, because I could just keep on going on forever. But I need a break, I need some water, and we're going to take a pause, and then we're going to get into my personal thoughts. There is just something about books who touch upon death and grief or dying as like its main theme that always seems to get to me. And if you know me in real life, you probably understand why it's such a big thing for me right now. But even before everything, it was always a big thing for me. And I feel like it's a big thing for everyone. But there is just something about this book in specific that's just wonderful and whimsical. And there's just really something about it. And it makes me so happy. And it brings me a type of peace. But let's start with the rating. 5 out of 5 for eternity. This book didn't feel like it read super fast or it was super slow, but it felt never-ending in a great way, where it's like there was always something more. There was always something to just keep your attention, and I wish there was more of the book. And I'm so glad to hear that she's thinking / writing a second book, because I'm sure this took her forever to write and edit and all that stuff. And honestly, kudos to her. She basically just wrote a fan fiction about her characters, and I love that for her. That's amazing. I love it. And I feel like it's good soup for the soul. That's what this book is. That is genuinely what this book is. And there's not really a part that I hated. There's not a part that really kind of made me go like, oh, what? Like, there's nothing I could really say that's bad about this book. Mostly because, like, even, like, with all the religious undertones and the afterlife and what it could be, I don't really have anything negative to say about it, because it's like, it sounds beautiful to me. Like, what she has created and made of what everything could be, it just is so wondrous. And again, something about books whose main theme is like death or the afterlife, it gets to me. Like, I feel like I'm saying like too much, but there's no other way for me to really express this. I love this book. This book has made me laugh. It has made me cry several times. It brought out emotion in me, and in my brain, in my head, if a book can bring out any kind of emotion from the story, from the characters, not from the writing, but from the story and characters, then it's a great book. It's an amazing book. That is not something that happens to me anymore. Like, when I was younger, yes, but now, like, nope, rarely happens. But I think everyone should give this book a shot, whether or not you follow Jaysea Lynn on TikTok or Instagram. This book is amazing. I love it. I would highly, highly recommend you reading it. Yeah, that was For Whom the Belle Tolls by Jaysea Lynn. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I've enjoyed talking about this book. It makes me want to reread it again, and that's just the best feeling in the world. But if you liked the video, like, subscribe, do whatever you want. And I will see you in the next chapter. Bye! I'm so glad I didn't start crying. I was so close to crying in the video.